Welcome and good morning. And we're going to start our session for the day. And I'm very pleased to welcome our dignitaries and esteemed panel today here for the second day for the Plan for Every Child to 2021 conference, 4th National Congress. And here in this session, we're going to focus on Equal for Better and how CSR can contribute to advancing gender equality. And with great pleasure, let me welcome Mr. Atul Dhawan, and he's the chairperson of Deloitte India. And let me also introduce by giving his brief profile. Mr. Dhawan is the chairperson, and he brings considerable experience in governance, strategy, and other areas. And Atulji also represents India on Deloitte Global Board as well as Asia Pacific Board. And over the years, he has held several leadership roles, including regional managing partner for North Region and national leaders for client programming, as well as brand communication. And a Deloitte partner for almost 30 years. And Atulji has more than 40 years of experience, starting in audit, as well as a distinguished record of service of key clients. And he has also mentored startups and several other initiatives. Atulji is on the board of Indus Entrepreneurs in India, in Delhi, and as well as member of board of American India Chamber of Commerce, and is also on the advisory board of Confederation of British Industry in India, and advisor US-India Strategic Partnership Forum for various India-focused campaign. And he's a chartered accountant and economist graduate from University of Delhi. Welcome, Atulji. He's going to chair this session. And let me also take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Ravi Bhatnagar, who is the Director, External Affairs and Partnership with SOA RICKET. And Ravi is, before this role, he was leading the same function for AMESA region at RICKET. He's a qualified independent director, as well as sits on various commissions and committees of SOCHM, UK IBC, CBI, if I'm reading it right, and FICCI ISC, and among others. And he is also the member of Global Corporate Affairs and Sustainability Leadership Team. And in recognition of his work in RICKET in social impact, he is the WTO Hall of Fame and a recipient of a President of India Medal. And before joining RICKET, Mr. Bhatnagar worked in challenging leadership positions in different organizations. Welcome. Let me also introduce Mr. Maninder Singh Nair, and he's the CEO and director of CEF Group. And he is very young, enthusiastic scholar, visionary leader, and dynamic entrepreneur and social reformist with desire to develop the nation through various initiatives and endeavors in renewable energy, power, Ayurveda, technology, education, skill development, and social work. And recently, his passion and and the effort that he has this has given him the esteemed position of chairperson of National Commission for Skill Development in SOCHM, and as a result of his immense and selfless hard work for society, and with a mission to build a society for mankind where each and every human being can write his own success story. He has set forth all the challenges and paved the way for new development for youth of the nation. Welcome, Mr. Maninder Singh ji. And let me also introduce our another panelist, Dr. Sunit Ranjan, and he's the Associate Director with Tata Trust. And Dr. Sunit Ranjan is associated with public health sector for more than 2 decades. And his experience include large-scale programs, management, policy advocacy, partnership. And Dr. Ranjan is associated with Tata Trust as Associate Director. And prior to this, Dr. Sujit has worked as Executive Director of Coalition for Food and Nutrition Security, CFNS, and Director Care India, and Chief Operating Officer, Swasthya Management and Research Institute, Hyderabad. He's also undergone International Fellowship on Visionary Leadership, and is also the International Fellowship he had undertaken on Leadership at the Center for African Family Studies, CAFS, Nairobi, Kenya, and with NFPCB, Government of Indonesia, Jakarta. Welcome, Dr. Ranjan. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome our another esteemed panelist today, Ms. Deepa Menon. And we know Deepa as very enthusiastic and hardworking personality and professional from almost 20 years now, Deepa Deepa is seasoned professional with 18 years of developmental experience in social sector, stakeholder relationship and management, corporate social responsibility, program, financial inclusion, budgeting management, and social and development communication. And she also has been in the core of public and corporate and governmental affairs. She joined PVR Cinemas in 2006, and she's a founder head of PVR Nest, a CSR initiative of PVR Limited with partners with local communities, and builds its capacity to mitigate issues and challenges the community faces. She's also currently managing the corporate communication at PVR, and she started her development career with Katha, and as well as with the other non-profit organizations. Thank you, Deepa, for joining. And let me also take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Gambhir Agarwal. He's joined. Yeah, welcome. So he's head of CSR Relaxo, and Gambhir Agarwal started his journey 15 years ago as a young volunteer and chose social work as a career over his family business, a CSR head of Relaxo Footwear Limited. He's aligned with the company's intent to benefit the marginalized section of society and plays a key role in project expansion and enhance the quality of standard of the system. Gambhir is a member of various committees, bodies, and believes that working of social cause is the greatest contribution in any capacity. Thank you very much for joining us today. And the last panelist, let me also take this privilege to introduce Mr. Rahul Agrawal. He is the director of Intelcap, and he has more than 20 years of experience in strategy development and investment planning with expertise in the social development sector. And prior to joining Intelcap, he was a director at NRMC, an evidence-based impact research-driven organization. And he has a zeal in guiding and believing a creative disruption through constant innovation in the key to create large-scale impact. In development sector, Rahul is committed to apply innovative management approaches and solving complex problems. So welcome, Rahul. And let me also take this opportunity to welcome Executive Director of Plan India, Mohammad Asif. He's going to join, he's here as discussant. He's going to consolidate the recommendation and going to present in the way forward session. Over to you, Atulji.
Thank you. And to all delegates, a very warm welcome. And to all my colleagues on the panel, a very warm welcome. And thank you for being here. I'm actually humbled listening to the profiles of each one of you. And it's really my privilege to be with you today. Just to set the context of the topic, and then I would like to get your views and opinions on the subject. We're here to discuss how are we going to use CSR to build back better, especially for the girl child, and what do we need to do over here. But first, to set the context, CSR, as we all know, was mandated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and put into the law. To provide for 2% of profits of every corporate to spend on social welfare schemes. Unfortunately, what has happened is in the pandemic, like everything else got impacted, and we saw implications on the economies, we saw implications on society. We saw the consequences particularly pronounced on women and the girl child. And we saw the widening of the existing gender gaps, and somewhere the work that had been done over decades got a setback. This was also partly because the government mandated or encouraged that the CSR funds actually be spent or directed towards COVID relief, and that took away a lot of the efforts and the activities that the CSR was carrying out. As a consequence of that, the consequence of that has been quite severe, because what it did was it started shifting the goalposts again for the gender-related work that had been done, and it pushed back several programs and set us back. Now, without getting into what happened, why it happened, the pandemic was a natural calamity that we have to deal with. The question is, how do we deal with the issues going forward now from here? We have to look at opportunities like the title of this conference, how do we build back better? How do we define the role of CSR in taking up the baton and moving forward? Now, I have a few thoughts, and we have a few thoughts even from Plan India on what are some of the objectives that the CSR funds could focus themselves on. The first one is really around improving the education side of things. How to make this more inclusive, how to improve the quality. The hybrid education model or the online classes, I think, impacted certain social strata and the girl child the maximum. We've seen the impact by which the girl child was deprived of education and being left at home and in a more confined environment. We found that the girl also started getting more social, more domestic chores to pick up and solve and work on. The families then got into financial hardships, and it pushed the priority to the boys again, unfortunately, again pushing back the work that we did on genders. So education is one area, is something that we should think about how CSR can step up and look at playing a part. Something that has not been noticed too much, but has had an impact, is the impact on gender equality when it comes to food security and nutrition, particularly for girls. There's a setback in the midday meal scheme. The dropout of the schools has taken away the midday meal opportunities for the girls. And it's had its own impact on the food and the nutrition issues that the girl child normally faces. The third area I would like us to look at is mental health. Mental health has been a taboo in India, in Indian societies, and discussion around mental health is not easy to do. It becomes harder at certain levels of society and even more harder for the girls. They're not easily encouraged, they're not easily forthcoming, but this is a serious problem that we are facing across society. And maybe CSR needs to step up. And I don't recall seeing any specific or any significant CSR projects that address the issue of mental health. The next one is something that we've always had to deal with in Indian society, and we had made some progress against it, but we've seen a setback, is gender-based violence. Again, because of confined living in homes, there is a definite increase in gender-based violence, a definite increase in child marriages, and definite setbacks on all the improvements that we have made in this area in the past years. Now, what we would really like to do in this session and to hear from our speakers are certain aspects of how CSR can help. How can, first of all, what can be discussed? What are the challenges facing the young, and especially the girls, as a result of the COVID-19? Then can we explore what are the different CSR best practices that you all have, that your organizations can bring and share with us on, and what initiatives can be taken up to ensure enabling inclusive development of young people, and especially focused on girls. How do we identify what priority areas for action can be identified for building back better with girls? And then how do we explore and consolidate innovative solutions and approaches to protect and empower the girls? So with this context, I would like to hear from all of you to start with, and then we could go around and discuss the topics based on the recommendations and the suggestions and your experiences that you share. So Ravi, could we start with you first to get your perspectives and thoughts?
Thank you so much. Yeah, this topic is indeed very, very interesting. Like, equal for better, how CSR can contribute to advancing gender equality. To me, gender doesn't, define just men and women. To me, gender also define the binaries. So, and if we miss the binaries, and if we are just focusing on men and women, we are actually, as per the census of India, as we are talking about India, we are losing 400,000 binaries, which are a part of this last census done. Uh, Moreover, the times were difficult. Last 18 months, when the businesses were struggling in the same way, CSR funds were also diverted towards the COVID-19 relief, which was the need of the time. But definitely, as you rightly put, Atul, like a lot of momentum got lost, in terms of educating the girls, and you have more teen pregnancies, you have school dropouts of the girl children, etc., etc. A lot of things have happened. Nevertheless, it's if I this is all what has happened in the development sector. But if I say, when I see it from the broader lens, uh, just imagine if we have just one woman as a candidate who is leading a CSR initiative. Statistically, there are no chances she will get the job. The men are promoted 30 times, at the higher rate than the women in the development sector itself. 90% of the women actually leave the development sector because of other work problems rather than having a child. On the top of that, there are more men named Johns run FTSE for 100 companies than women. So when I see all these data and statistics, the situation is almost, very similar in the corporate sector as well as, in the development sector. So are all the efforts, should actually go into making sure, we have gender responsive programming, where when we are chalking out our plans now, like for us, the financial cycles are very different, as we are a, UK based company. And there may be certain people here who will be planning from March, etc. So, so what we do on the gender front, interestingly, my experience, we have 100 plus partners across India, but here I'm going to mention Plan because I find them very, very special to us, to Reckitt as a family. So this during the COVID times, this is the organization who started thinking about the mental health helpline, especially in Northeast, in the far-fetched areas of the Northeast. And we're the first mental health helpline which is available in the Northeast. Uh, it's and a helpline is a helpline. I will not say more men or more women should come. Whomsoever has problem, men should also cry sometimes. Otherwise there's always a very different image of machoism. And the difficult times also have taught us, it's we need to bring the rationality and equality when we work on the so-called development programs. The investments with Plan have been going to the nutrition programs, where when the Anganwadis were closed across Maharashtra in the two tribal districts where we work. And we made sure like the take-home ration and other things were made available, and we have 40 women volunteers who are the on-foot nutrition workers. So they are actively engaged in the programming from in the first 1,000 days, and making sure amid COVID also the food is getting reached to the women who have health issues and other things, and who child are actually suffering from SAM and MAM and all that. Uh, there's a large leadership deficit actually I see, uh, because many things actually come from top. It's great, people are there at the field as a field level managers, but how many actually women leaders we see who are in a strategic position on the boards and other places who are running the CSR? Here also, like if I see today's tally of us who are being discussing this particular issue, so except Deepa, I don't see anyone. And this is a very it's a case which I see in most of the places. So I can speak on behalf of Reckitt. We are planning to make sure, the programs what we run, we have 70% plus women leaders in the leadership position and leading our programs in the development sector And inside the company for the corporate, we have a plan to increase our, overall leadership position filling, for the women and for the girls and for the binaries. It will go up to 29-30%. And we're the first ones in the UK who came out with a gender, the gender programming, report last year, where we have made some global commitments. And with the CEO Lakshman on board, like we actually see a lot of drivers are there now to make sure we have the blind resume screening, so that it should not happen like you ask for. So the blind resume screening is one of the ways where you eliminate the bias, like whom you're selecting. And same best practices we are also bringing to our development partners. Because if in the leadership, if the women are not there, then who will run these programs? Then my second and last point, what I want to say is, as much women are important, equally, binaries are also important, because we can't leave anyone behind. And as Reckitt, we very solidly believe in leaving no one behind, and our energies are there, making sure the programs that we run are not just a privilege. People have right to get those programs. And beauty is like, we have Raj Nui at Plan, who guides Asif and others. In the same way, we have our global leadership. In the same way, we have a lot of other partners who have the global leaders, who are all thinking in the same lines, but more action is required on ground for translating all this. Thank you so much. This was my submission.
Ravi, thank you so much for that. I think you made a very, very valid point, and I was reflecting as you were speaking about women in leadership. And actually, you're right. When you get more women into the leadership roles, you set the tone. You set the tone at the top, and you really then drive action plans from the top. And it's not just about leadership in the CSR field. I believe it's about the issue of leadership across organizations and across society. I saw a video before this program started that equal means 50%. And that is absolutely true. And it is a journey that we have to take to move in that direction, to correct this imbalance that has been embedded for centuries. But it is absolutely essential. And that's one of the points I was making. Unfortunately, the pandemic has set us back, and it's taken back a lot of the work that we have done. And we have to redouble efforts to get back to and move ahead from where we are. But thank you for sharing Reckitt's experience. That was very, very useful and good examples to set. Maninder, could we come to you next and get your perspectives and thoughts on this?
Everyone, very good morning, Atulji, Raviji, Sujitji, Deepaji, Anuragji, Gambhirji, and Rahulji, everybody in the panel and all those who are listening. Well, this topic is very, very close to my heart. And when I got this invitation from Plan, I was more than happy, because we have been actually working a lot in this sector. But yes, there are a lot of things that you would always want to share and learn from conferences like today. What Atulji said in the initial drive of his speech related to mental health is a very, very valid point. What Raviji said regarding the third gender or the boundaries is also very, very important, and we must take these kind of valid points as takeaway for today. CSR as a contribution to gender equality, I take it back to the education system that we have, and would want to explore where actually we lose way, that we need these topics to be emphasized on later in the stage, when we actually start with this very much. For example, where we come from India. What's our culture? Our culture is the value system. One very great professor once told me, and I would like to share that with you. He said, in the future, the value system of the East and professionalism of the West will need to be merged together in order to get success at all levels. And I very well agree with this valid point. Now, what is the value system of the East? It definitely originates from India, and we are proud of it. When we start our life early on, we know that we worship Ma Durga, we worship Ma Lakshmi on every festival, on every point of life. We are told, explained the relevance, importance of women having equal status or a better status. But then as we start our professional career, be it from school or college or thereafter, where do we lose track? That is what we have to little bit understand. So we have to break those stereotypes, the taboos, the mindsets, our culture, our religions, everything gives us a lot. And we must make sure that we use them in a positive, reformative way, rather than making them hindrance to bring the woman in the forefront. For example, one point that I would like to raise for this particular subject is that CSR in this particular sector should emphasize on girls participating in STEM education. That has been one very big snag. For example, even when we were students, we used to notice that you go to an engineering college, you will hardly find very few girls studying in engineering college as compared to boys. So the mind starts wondering from there that why are girls not participating in STEM education? So we must take this point that CSR in gender equality should be emphasized on making girls study STEM and making them to work on STEM related subjects as much as male counterparts do. Apart from that, like Ravi ji said, the third gender thing, we must have a part of CSR going in that direction till the time we are able to make a mark in this. Although many organizations, including most of us who are here, are working in this sector, but still, if we talk about any strong subjective change that we've been able to brought in the third gender aspect, then I would say no. And if you can just roll it on your mind, where we might be doing things for social security, might be doing things for COVID, might be doing things for gender equality for women, can you really think of any strong programs going on in the country for the third gender? My answer is no, I cannot think about that. So we are also working on that. I would request everybody in the panel and outside the panel audience to also think on those lines, how we can create a bigger impact there. That is a slightly easier battle to win than the topic that we have today. So we can take one challenge at a time and get it going. Getting back to my initial thing on education, that as far as getting this thing right, we need to educate the people right from day one. Now today, what we have learned during the COVID time is that today we are sitting in a hybrid conference. This itself is a testimonial that distance, physical availability, and many other such things are not the things that will create any kind of hindrance for anybody to achieve anything in life. And I think most of the people who should be made party to this as the sect which should make utilization of this particular opportunity is the girls and women to come up to that level as fast as possible. And I'm sure we don't really need to push, that will happen eventually, because a lot of times we see in different walks of life, the woman, the girl gender, they are restrained, they are not able to join the front line because of their physical things. They have to be at home, they have to give birth to a child, they have to do so many things which creates a hindrance for them to go out and stand somewhere, whereas boys get this opportunity to go out because there's somebody taking care of the home and family, right? So this can really be mitigated. This risk, this challenge can be mitigated with the digital world that we are today living in. So once we promote digital, once we promote advocacy, once we promote work from home, once we promote distance working, I think we ourselves will be able to bridge this gap between girls coming up and working from the forefront. So all in all, as a individual, I support that education is not something where we just have to teach people to get into a professional race and earn money. Believe me, earning money was a big thing 10 years back or 20 years back, because you had to do a lot to earn little money. But today, if you have the talent, if you have the skill, no matter where you are, money will come into your account. And you don't have to give cash, you don't have to receive cash, you don't have to go physically. So the education should be diverted or focused on not to make a person learn how to earn money, but how a person to be a better human being, how to look at the world from a more common perspective, more just perspective, how to not differentiate between a boy and a girl, how to not differentiate between, workplace opportunities at workplace, how to not create a bias that, okay, let's not hire girls, she might take a drop after 1 year, she might get married and go somewhere. Well, all these circumstances are applicable to men also. But most of the time we feel and we see that in the professional arena, girls are the ones, women are the one who are mostly put a stamp on that, okay, their vulnerability is higher on the family circumstances as compared to boys. So if we are able to give that kind of an education, that kind of a social literacy to the people, to the stakeholders, to the society, to the children, to the school-going kids, we will be able to do justice with this subject, where we want gender equality to be there at all aspects of life, not even in social relationships and professional arena, everywhere. So that is, what I would want to put forward from my side. Coming to a little bit on the government side, since I am the chairman at ASSOCHAM for National Council on Entrepreneurship and Skill Development, I would like to say that government has done a lot by bringing this whole policy of CSR, that we all have to put some money in the kitty to make sure that we're doing good. But at the same time, if government says, okay, now today you will have to spend your CSR over there, that is something which we don't welcome. So if there is a calamity in the country, let government do its bit, but the corporate should do their bit at their level. That way, in the longer run, we will be able to address this problem, what Ravi Bhatnagarji said, that we diverted ourselves from other problems, just ran after COVID last 2 years. All right, that was the need of the hour. But tomorrow, we may have to get used to these kind of things in the future. You never know what kind of problems we may foresee. Now, considering that, we must make sure that as corporates, we stick to our plans, long-term and short-term, and we contribute to CSR where we think are required on ground pertaining to the current social and industrial scenario. So for the government, while at one side, like Atul Dhawanji said, that the midday meal scheme has a big impact, I would like to tell you, sir, that government is now also including breakfast in midday meal very soon. And these things will definitely add more to giving those kind of amenities to the children, both girls and boys at the ground level, so that they can grow better, they can live better, they can perform better in life. But at the same time, again, for government should do its bit, corporates should do their bit, and together we should work in an ecosystem where we are able to not miss out on any important subject, such as what we are discussing today, which is gender equality. And the biggest push that will ever happen to this will be from CSR only. So at the end, I would just like to summarize myself in 3 points where I would want the CSR spend to be focused on digital methodologies of training, empowering, teaching, and ultimately employment, so that everybody can get a fair chance. Number 2, I would like that CSR spent on this particular sector should also focus on early employment. What do I mean by early employment? Now see, one basic difference between our society and developed country society. In developed countries, children get to work at the age of 14. They get the right mix, they get the right experience, they get the right place to express themselves, to talk to the other gender, to understand them. And that is why more equality is achieved. In our country, the problem is that till about 18, we are not exposed to working. Then after that, we know that some parents behind us who will take care of our graduation, who will take care of our masters, then even parents are spending on the marriages. So when do we actually get into the arena ourselves? For most of us, we actually get into the arena after 25 years of age, which is very late. So CSR spent on gender equality, if that happens, if that has to see good results, we must start spending at the age of 14, where we motivate children who are studying in school to get internships and employment from their home, from their mobile phones, from their laptops at the age of 14, so that they get a feel and experience of what the world outside is. so that they can start earning, so that they understand what is my responsibility, what is somebody else's responsibility. That way we can definitely close this gap to a big extent. And the third point that I would like to say and close my address is the hybrid internships. Like I just said, you start giving opportunities to children at the age of 14. After that, just like this program is a hybrid model, similar for children studying in school, we should have some hybrid model for them where they can get access to workplaces, where they can get access to working with other genders, so that they understand this topic better. And then we will not have to do much later on when they grow up as employees or employers at any end. So this is what I wanted to share with you all today. I thank Plan International for calling me here, and also very, very moved with their sincere and high on integrity efforts. And just today, Asif ji asked me, Maninder ji, I'm thankful for you coming. I said, no, sir, it's my pleasure. And in the future, also, it will be my pleasure to be with Plan NHA. Thank you so much.
Maninder, thank you so much for that. I mean, it was very inspiring to hear you. And I really loved your 3 recommendations of digital. You're absolutely right. Digital is a key driver for everything today. And one thing the pandemic taught us is that how do you digitalize and live through situations like the pandemic through a digital revolution. And needless to say, it should impact the CSR initiatives as well, and CSR should focus. Absolutely spot on. I loved your talk about the early employment as they do in the Western countries. You're right again. Unfortunately, we don't teach our children to work, and hence there is a deficiency that's got left in their training by the time they come into the workforce. And early experience would be very, very good. You made a passing reference towards the end of the session. But can we move to Sujit? Sujit, you bring a very, very rich legacy and experience, I guess, to this topic. And you bring a history that goes back a long, long time, and it's deeply embedded in the country's social fabric. So it'll be really, I'm really looking forward to listening to you.
Thank you very much, sir, and respected chairman, distinguished panel members, Mr. Asif, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Tata Trust, it's a great opportunity for me to be part of this session today. And the topic is very relevant in the current phase and very relevant for the development sector and for how we are reaching out to our most marginalized or vulnerable society, and how we can create an environment where gender can be seen in a very different manner, because based on my not-for-profit sector experience, I have seen like the gender means it's directly related with power and access. And I remember the words of Kofi Annan, the 7th Secretary General of United Nations, like the gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. So I was highly inspired by Mr. Kofi Annan with this statement, and the way he had given a different perspective of gender equity, gender equality. And that time I was part of a different organization. And we learned that we cannot eradicate poverty and achieve social justice while inequality persists. Discrimination against women has negative implications and security and development, economic performance, food security, health, and the environment, governance and stability. So gender remains one of the most fundamental sources of inequality in our society, in our country, and in our sector. And I strongly believe, because I'm closely associated with corporate social responsibilities, closely related with many of our CSR partners and Tata Trust itself. Like, the CSR has the power to change the present and future generation. The socially oriented competencies, socially oriented, the commitment which you are having for the society. So we can put gender equality and the safety and dignity of women and girls at the center of what we do, the demand committed action and sustainable resources. So I have seen, like, in all our intervention, we are trying to include the inclusion of gender perspective, and we have seen, like, that can play a dynamic role in achieving gender equality in the society through activities, initiatives, strategies, and our policies. And that has provided equal access to job opportunities to female our colleagues, and also to provide for equality of treatment of women in the workplace and also in the society. So couple of things which I have seen, like, where we are directly involved, and we have seen like how we have learned from the other our CSR partners and CSR friends, like how the prevention, the active role in prevention, the risk mitigation, the response, and also the advocacy. You might have heard, like, Tata Tea is they have taken an approach to address both this contextual and the policy influence on gender equity. The company is utilizing marketing and advocacy to promote national policy. I can say the national policy shifts in education requirements. There, you might have heard the Jago Re advocacy platform which Tata Tea initiated, and the Jago Re advocacy platform recently established a petition to urge the Indian government, national government, to make gender sensitization classes mandatory in schools. So that's the success we can see, that how our influence, our efforts has influenced the system, influenced the policy, influenced the policy makers and the program leaders. And I strongly believe with the commitment from the board, with the commitment from the leadership, we, like, through CSR can contribute to challenge and push to create a better community. We look forward to, in our new initiative, Tata Trust has also gone through, like, a new strategy for the next 5 years. So we look forward for working very together to all our partners with the state government, national government, and ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to using our voices as allies and advocates in essential fight. I strongly believe, like, we can continue to listen and learn and add our communities to achieve stronger CSR, more powerful contribution, more powerful our solution to the system, solution to the society, and coming with all kinds of evidences which we have seen in different parts of the country and also learned from the different parts of the world. I strongly believe that some of the areas where our contribution, like the CSR contribution, are very much needed, like approaches in designing how the impact we can see, what should be the best approach, and how the timeline should be planned accordingly. Then incorporate the voice of women and girls in our not only like add-on in our program, rather from the beginning, how we can incorporate and how we can conduct the gender analysis of the system. So, like, whenever we are going for a new initiative, like CSR can play an important role to conduct the gender analysis as part of the situational analysis of our intervention. And they invest in the baseline research and the map the ecosystem in such a manner so that our efforts will be clearly visible, clearly underlined. So with these words, I'm closing my this is suggestion. I think my inputs here, and I am very much sure that together we can make a difference and create an environment where the power and access can be, we can not only like minimize, rather to give an opportunity to all our community people to come forward and get the best from the development agenda which we have meant for them and which we have planned for them, or they can have access to the government system also, like whether we talked about the midday meal, we talked about the public distribution system, like the services which are meant for them from the, like the ICDS platform, Anganwadi platform, health services, how they can have the access and get the quality services. So here the power and access, like the gender, it's not only the men and women, it's the power and access, how we can reduce. So CSR can definitely play an important role, and together we can make it. Thank you very much.
Sujay, thank you so much. I mean, that was an important aspect of the program activity of, actually measuring the outcomes, because there's no just doing programs and activities without actually measuring what the outcome is and have we got the desired goals is a gap. But that's an important aspect in this program activity. I'll come back to you when we go into the Q&A round with a question on that, and get some more insights from you on this one, because for example, in our work in Deloitte, one of the things that we always do in our project work is measure outcomes, and I think that's something we do. But you will notice in a lot of the Plan India programs also, the programming activity does measure the outcomes, and I think we need to make that a cultural issue in CSR programs. But Deepa, you seem to be a pioneer in this field, and as Ravi pointed out at the beginning, you're the only woman on this panel, and I think we should have had more. But that also makes you a very powerful voice for the discussion today. And I did notice that for PBR, you did pioneer this activity, so it'll be very interesting to get your thoughts and views as well.
Thank you, Atulji. Before I start my talk, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Plan India to come up with this amazing national conference on Build Back Better for girls. And it's also such a privilege to hear every panelist touching upon the inclusion and the narrative on mental health, STEM education from Anindaji, gender fluidity, which is coming out, and digital access and skilling in the conference. It's great to see that it's all being setting up well. In my talk, I just want to basically start off by saying that in many parts of the world, girl and young women continue to carry the double burden of being both young and female. And in my talk, I'm going to use women. That's going to substitute young women and girls in terms of their age group. Gender inequality worldwide is staggering. Here are some of the statistics I want to share with you, which will capture the gravity of the problem. Half of the women cannot go alone to the market or health facility. 1 in the 4 married women in India do not get to participate in decisions about their own healthcare. And in India, 27% of the women are in workforce compared to the average of 50% globally. 15 lakh girls in India marry before the age of 18, often without their consent. And India has a higher number of underage brides in the world. 70% of young women experience physical and sexual violence from their intimate partner. This year, India has further slipped 28 places to rank 140th among the 156 countries in the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap. Just to answer to this question, how CSR can contribute to advance gender equality, I'd like to simply state by saying that by creating inclusive and equitable urban spaces for them. It's no secret that women and girls continue to be excluded from most urban spaces, either owing to attitudes or the lack of infrastructure that restricts access. Therefore, equity makes it really, really necessary to support the women in ways that are unique to their needs and challenges, which further makes it possible for them to access urban spaces. What makes urban spaces crucial in advancing gender equality is their ability to create sustainable jobs, which in turn leads to the socio-economic growth in women. According to the McKinsey report, which has just come in 2018, India has one of the most significant opportunities in the Asia Pacific to boost the economy by advancing gender equality. Addressing women's lack of access to the fundamental enablers of economic opportunity leads to empowerment and, of course, in turn improves the country's economy. And it's really noteworthy to see that in 2015, just way back, we happened to reduce the gender inequality as part of the SDG goal, which helped shape international development priorities until 2030. So just to state, every child and every young girl deserves to reach to his full potential, but gender inequalities in their lives and in the lives of those who care for them hinder this reality, and therefore it's critical to really invest in and empower with education, life skills, and much more. So I'll just come to the very specific topic of the role of CSR, which is absolutely vital task and is indispensable because the cursory examination of the contribution of CSR will quickly tell us that many organizations have contributed significantly to the cause owing to the quality of the work that affect real and on-ground changes. The two important factors which play a pivotal role in the success of CSR organizations is the first, their work is informed by leading best practices in the field. And two, their ability to pool resources optimally. And this is also because all corporate organizations have some standard systems in places and collaborations are effective. The last is the point which I really want to talk about is the CSR program of PVR Cinemas, and we call it PVR Nest. And to achieve, we at PVR have been working towards filling the gaps in essential infrastructure, addressing problems which are surrounding childcare to the support system through our female-friendly sanitary complexes. We have made available safe, hygienic, accessible sanitation spaces exclusively for women so that we can take care of the children also under their childscapes, under our Childscapes initiative. This we run with Plan India and many other fronts in right now in India, so that we run them in Delhi and NCR very well. Our experience of running some of the female-friendly sanitary complexes over the years have convinced us of the important relationship between its presence and the increased accessibilities of cities to the women. Some of our state-of-art facility comprehensively includes toilets, including the breastfeeding areas, children's diaper changing sections, incinerators, central hygiene equipments, which are meant to address women's important sanitary and caregiving needs. Additionally, as part of some of our programs which we extend for childcare, through government-run programs like Archon centers, we double up the creches where children could be looked after and provided all the 3 meals a day, ensuring their safety and nutrition and education. This is, of course, got disrupted due to COVID-19, and we are hoping that we'll be able to resume in the beginning next year. In addition to the child safety, it also helps, these centers also help working women to continue the work and have a very, very safe mobility in the city. We believe in PVR that these are 2 foundation projects by PVR to address gender inequalities and safety and protection and care for young people and young girls and women in the city. I'd like to thank by speaking right now. Just thank you so much.
Sorry, I was on mute. Deepa, thank you so much for that. It was a very, very good insight, and you brought out some very interesting points about, the urban spaces particularly, and how the one important part you brought out, and then I should have brought that out in my opening remarks also, is so we say one line that we use in Deloitte is that there are things that are not just the right thing to do, they also are the right business thing to do. So if we to promote the gender equality or equality and inclusiveness, it has a significant impact on the economy. You're absolutely spot on over there. But we're running short of time, so I just quickly want to move over to Gambhir. If I could get you in and your points, your observations and your recommendations, and then we can move on to Rahul. So Gambhir, can we get you?
Atul, Atulji, and thank you very much, Asif ji and Plan International, for inviting me for this wonderful national conference. And I think this is a need of our that we should concentrate over the gender gap of India, which we are facing currently. So, first of all, I would like to start with a good point, which is as per the NFHS 5. I think it's the first time when the number of females have been increased from the number of males. So currently we are having almost 1020 females over 1000 males. So this is a kind of an encouragement for all of us. But on the other hand, if we see, there are so many challenges and so many gaps are there, especially when we are discussing the gender gap. And this gender gap is this has been addressed from last so many years. In fact, from the, if we recall the pre-independence era also. So if I can name some like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, Pandita Ramabai, then Mahatma Gandhi ji, and then so many people have been working over this particular thing from last so many years, and still we are struggling with this particular thing in India, and especially if we talk about the rural areas, if we see what is happening in the rural areas nowadays, and especially after the COVID, as I can see, one of the studies was saying that more women has lost their jobs. Almost 47% women has lost their jobs since this COVID outbreak, in comparison to men, which is only 7%. So there is a kind of mindset gap also in the terms of economical, if we say it in the economical inequalities. So, and other things are that, like, obviously, education is one of the key sector, and as part of the Relaxo Footwear Limited CSR works, so we have been taking this education initiatives on our priority, and with Plan India we are working in education sector, especially the primary education. And we have been adopted 45 schools, 45 primary schools in Haridwar district with primary with Plan India support. And we have been working there from last 3 years. From 2018 onwards, we have been working there. So in the time of COVID, what we have experienced that the shift has been changed drastically towards the we all know that India is always having a kind of patriarchal society, but nowadays what we are seeing that it has been more increased now, especially in semi-urban areas or rural areas. If we see what is happening, people are not interested to send their girls to the schools, especially after the 8th class or 9th class. It is a very big challenge for a girl to continue her education, just because she has to do the household works, she has to take care her siblings which are younger, and she has to support her mother in household works as well as for the economical activities, whether it is for the agricultural things which she has to do. So there are so many challenges if we see in the rural areas, especially. And other thing I want to point out here is the health. one of the data is saying, interestingly, that less women are vaccinated for COVID in comparison to the men. So this is a kind of shocking study, and this is a kind of shocking data which we are getting. When we are talking about health, so there are so many challenges, especially women have faced, or if we are saying that girls are facing, especially in schools, because there are so many challenges like sex selective abortions are there, nutrition challenges are there, and preferences of health. So a man is getting a better treatment in comparison to a woman or a girl. So this and other things, what we have to address at this point of time, I believe ke through a CSR, or being a member of a CSR fraternity, we should focus more about the BCC things, behavioral change communication, how we can do those things better especially in the semi-urban and the rural areas of India, because we all know that most of the population resides in the rural areas, and it is well said that when we educate a man, we educate a one person only, but when we educate a female, we educate a family. So, and this I believe that we have to focus as a responsible CSR fraternity. We have to focus more over the BCC part of the rural areas, and if we can just change a village or a panchayat only for a 2 years or 3 years period of time through our interventions. Like I would like to mention here what we are doing under our education and our other programs with support of plan. We have been inculcated gender discrimination or gender awareness in all our ongoing interventions. We are working in the primary schools, and we have been discussing this gender gap, gender awareness, and the gender equalities, not only with the teachers of these schools, but with the parents and with the so-called with the village communities also, whether it is the BHSNCs or whether it is the health workers who are working in the at the grassroots level, ASHAs, Anganwadis, ANMs. So this kind of work we are doing under the umbrella of Relaxos CSR currently, and I would like to draw the attention for the priorities we have to set, especially for the girls' education. As I have said earlier also, that there are less girls are there who can continue their education after 8th class. Most of the girls are dropping at the either on 7th class or when they entered in 8th class. Reason behind, again, ke parents are having some kind of burdens, whether they are economic burdens, whether they are again the patriarchal society or the mental mindset kind of blockage is there. No, we shouldn't educate our girls. We shouldn't send them far from the homes for the higher education, for 9th above to the 8th class, or for this graduation level or some kind of professional courses. So this is a kind of challenge we are seeing nowadays, and we are looking forward, and we are very much sure also that with our efforts and with the support of the society and the organizations like Plan India, we will be able to address these things, not on a very larger geography, but at least where we are working now, at least in the panchayats where we are working, at least in the schools, villages where we are working. So it will be, we will be very happy if we can see these changes only in a, I am not saying about a district, or I'm not talking about a state, because it's a very big geographical area. So here I'm focusing and talking about if we can change only one village or only one panchayat in the coming 2 or 3 years time, it will be a great achievement for us. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me, Asif ji and Atul ji, and all other honorable members who are present here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gambhir. Thank you for bringing the rural focus on the CSR initiatives, because that's where most of India lives, and that's where I guess most gaps are. And I think, yes, that you've given us food for thought on focusing on that segment as well. Can we move to our last speaker, Rahul? And Rahul, if we can get your views, and I think given your background, yeah, you should be able, you would share with us your social project initiative, your social investment initiatives as well.
Thank you, Mr. Dhawan, and good morning to all my esteemed co-panelists, delegates sitting here, and all delegates who are participating in this event offline and online. I would like to thank Plan India for giving me this opportunity to share my views on a topic which is very close to my heart, and also forms the guiding principle for all the technical support that Intellicap provides to the Government of India, various corporates, and various multilateral and bilateral donor agencies. I would be taking an independent perspective as an independent advisory firm. And I do, as an independent entity, we do see a paradox. While my co-panelists have, and I laud all of them for the excellent work that they have highlighted as part of ensuring gender equality. But the paradox stems from the fact, and I'm looking at from a larger ecosystem perspective. If we just look at the SDG contribution through the CSR funding, and if I just take the figures in the financial year 2020-2021, we see that based on the spending in this financial year, the SDG contribution, or the contribution of CSR funding to SDG 5 is barely 1%. While on one side, and that's how the paradox can be highlighted. On one side, we have corporate sector bringing in the efficiency in delivering the basic services to the various marginalized population, be it in the areas of health, education, nutrition, water, and sanitation. They've also looked at pooling in the resources and putting it for a common objective. But on the other hand, we see, and for all these statistics, thank you, Deepaji, for highlighting all these statistics, we see that the women empowerment has not actually translated into ensuring gender equality, which refers to equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities for men and women, boys and girls, and the third gender. So that's the paradox that we are today living in. And if you look at the why is that happening, the reason that we believe, the primary reason is that when we design all our interventions are designed in a manner that focuses more on individual outcomes, rather than looking at the relationship and the factors that influence women's ability to influence their thought process, and that influence their ability to thrive and succeed. At the same time, we do not, there are limited efforts on our part while we are designing the program in understanding the differences and inequalities that exist between men and women, not only in terms of the responsibilities that are assigned, the activities that are undertaken, the access and control over resources, and the freedom or the opportunity that women today have in terms of making their independent choices, or rather participating in any decision-making process. So here we are. We have projects which have increased the income for women, but at the same time, when it comes to using that money for, or rather exercising his or her choice of where to use that money or prioritizing her needs, we still are she is still dependent on the head of the household, or for that matter, the men. So that is something that is the primary reason. If you look at, and we have done this analysis, we have looked at mapping various CSR interventions across the gender equity continuum. And we see that most of the projects believe in perpetuating the status quo and not looking at addressing the inequalities. So we have, and let's take an example of from a sanitation sector. So we have, what have we done? We have created separate toilet for boys and girls. But have we designed the toilets in a manner that it addresses sex-specific needs? No. Then there are examples, if I move higher into the ladder, there are examples of various projects who have, we can bucket them into either gender sensitive or gender responsive. But consider a scenario wherein the toilets are constructed post consultation with parents, teachers, children, and the design reflects the safety and the gender specific needs. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call gender transformative. And this is the highest level of at the gender equity continuum. And through this forum, I would like to propose this as the aspirations that the corporates should set for themselves, that all the projects, all our interventions that we would continue to, or we propose, or we will be doing in the future, should be looked at mapping it in the area of being gender transformative. How do we do that? Dr. Ranjan has already talked about conducting a gender analysis as part of the situation analysis. I would just like to expand on what do we mean by gender analysis, and that is where the corporates can take a lead and present models of doing gender analysis. When we are talking about designing a project, we should look at the individual's identity and their individual trait. At the same time, we should look at the relationship she shares with her family, with her peer group, because that is what are going to influence her behavior. We cannot, at the third level, we cannot ignore, and also at the fourth level, the community and the society that drives the social norms, or that are the originator of the social norms that drives the various behavior that they conduct. So we need to first develop our understanding across as an individual, as at the family level, at a society level, and also at a community level. My second suggestion is, and this is where the work that is done by various UN organizations like WFP, UNICEF, and also likes of Plan India, wherein we are looking at sensitizing men. We cannot talk of gender equality in isolation. If we have to ensure gender equality, we have to sensitize men, make them understand what it means by gender equality, and also talk to them and explain them what are the roles and responsibility they can play towards promoting empowerment of girls and women and towards ensuring gender equality. So that's my second set of where the corporates can present models and work towards pioneering these objectives. My third and final suggestion would be in terms of, and again, this is something that UN organizations and Plan India also practices, is when we are talking about reporting on indicators, the entire narrative has to change. The narrative currently, which is number of households that have been provided access to toilet facilities, or number of children who have been vaccinated, the narrative has to change from just the results framework has to change, and it has to be more gender-based results, wherein two things. One, we need to highlight or capture results achieved for women and girls in comparison to those that is achieved for men and boys. And secondly, results that contribute to changing relation between women and men and norms around gender roles. So these are my 3 recommendations that we can do and ensure that corporates, and given the strengths that corporates have, we can play a pioneer role towards ensuring gender equality through all our CSR interventions. I rest here. Thank you very much.
Rahul, thank you so much for that. I mean, that was very, very incisive. In fact, coming from a consulting background, it's kind of music to my ears because you're almost suggesting a model of how to deal with this issue. I would probably just invert it a bit based on what you were saying. I would start looking at society, moving down to family and communities, and then to the individuals, because I often feel that, especially when we talk about, especially when we talk at a family level and we talk about putting girls to do family chores, it's the family unit that we first need to sensitize to make sure that they need to understand that it is equally important to educate the girl child as it is to educate the boy child. And that maybe starts at a society level. At the society level, you brought up this issue of sensitizing men. And that too probably needs to work at a society level. I'm not too sure how projects would be really effective on the ground unless we get that sensitization in place. Maninder raised a very interesting point as he was talking about the value system that the Eastern civilizations have. Somewhere in the social or society sensitization, those are the value systems where we placed in our own traditional culture, we place women at the center of things. Those are value systems we perhaps need to reinforce and reinvigorate in a sense to start building back better. Now, I also think you brought up this point, and so did Sujit. I think the measurement of outcomes cannot just be quantitative based, as you said, and I completely agree. There have to be some social parameters, there have to be some qualitative measures that people like yourself and people that are at this meeting today would need to look at doing to look at the effectiveness of different programs. I agree it's not good enough to say we have constructed 500 toilets, but what happened? Were they taken out? Did it impact the health? Did it improve security of the girl child? How did the rural families react to that? Did it change family mores? Did it change family values? I think those are issues that we should be measuring and finding out ways to measure as we go forward. The very interesting themes, and I was making notes, and unfortunately we've run out of time. And all of you have made some very important recommendations. I would have loved to have gone around and asked you all for a closing line, but I don't think we'll have the luxury to do that today. But I was just taking some key takeaways for ourselves. And, we talked about social acceptance and awareness. I spent some time on this. And I think, again, Rahul, you and Maninder alluded to this. Maninder was very direct, and you alluded indirectly to this, that we should not get prescriptive in providing guidance to CSR programs. The government should not tell us what to do. And people, I think corporates should also start trying to understand that this is not a quarterly target that we are so used to doing for ourselves, and we need to look at things differently. So, and that leads on to Sujit's recommendation that measuring outcomes is so critical in this one. Some other takeaways that I have is, I think, again, it's in that model, Rahul, you talked about society, family to individual. Gender sensitization and sensitizing men is critical in achieving success in what we are discussing today. And I love Deepa's recommendation, most of all about the inclusive, equitable urban spaces. It's very often we forget that there are special needs of either gender that we need to take care of and address. And we often forget that. I think the overarching issue that we've got with the corporate CSR program, as I see it from where I sit, is many times because it's mandated by law, people are trying to just check the box. So I think it's important in this whole sensitization program, we also work with corporates to help them understand that this is a larger social issue that they're addressing. And it's not about putting money into a kitty somewhere and spending it and just saying that I've complied with the law. There is a much higher purpose to this that we need to help even corporates understand. It would be nice if, as a result of our deliberations today, there will be further steps taken. And Asif sat on the stage today with all of you to take notes, and I'm sure we will come out with some very detailed action plans. And I'm hoping, and this is a little pompous statement, that we would probably start something big over here as if we take the action steps from this meeting today. But I just want to thank you so much for this. Clearly, there was very deep involvement and interaction because we run over time and we could not complete our agenda. But I'm going to stop here. Asif, I'll hand it back to you to close the program and take things forward to the next session.
Thank you, Atul, and no, thanks to all the participants, because I have already got 6-7 pages of notes and very clear and doable suggestions. So we will put it all together, and obviously we'll share it as part of the conference report to each one of you. Again, thank you for the time. I know all of you have been extremely busy, but you have been kind enough to share your perspective at this conference, and your perspective, let me just highlight, is been listened to by frontline workers, by people who are youth change makers at the grassroots level. I'm sure the deliberations and your points that you made over the last 1.5 hours would be extremely useful to our colleagues who are working hard at the grassroots level. That's the way Ravi did mention that not just we have to work with an agenda of leave no one behind, but we also have to ensure that our actions reach the ground. So with these words, thank you once again on behalf of Plan India for giving your time, and we look forward to taking forward the recommendations and move over to the next session, which is to start in another 10 minutes. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.